This adults versus baby cultures basically seen throughout my career across many different companies. And it turns out it's also true in life. I first started noticing this when maybe I was about 20, 21. At least until that age, I just assumed that, well, grown-ups are grown-ups and they know what they're doing. Growing up in India, there's also a little greater respect for adults and grown-ups than, say, is the norm in the Western world. So there was this whole conditioning programming, like all these grown-ups and elders know what they're doing, that they are wise and they're smart, etc. That's the kind of assumption I had made up until then. But then I started noticing that something is not adding up. I was an adult by that time, but like a very young adult. At the time, I was trying to figure out what should I do with my life? What does this all mean? And what will it take to be successful? As I was thinking through all of that and I was observing people, I started noticing that just a lot of the adults were actually babies in disguise. They might have been 50 years old, 60 years old, or 70 years old, but they were not demonstrating maturity that you would hope for. So it was mainly about getting rid of the garbage, where the garbage in this case was, well, everybody who's elder to you knows what they're doing and you should respect them and you should listen to them and they have great things to say. I never lost the respect part necessarily, but I did lose this person or these people, they really are highly immature. The form that takes mainly is that a baby is operating as just a victim of whatever circumstances there are. I'm not talking about an actual baby, right? I'm talking about an adult baby. An adult baby just goes about their life as though they are a victim of the circumstances around them. Small things irritate them to a fairly large degree. They are unable to regulate their own emotions. They are excessively reliant on other people to soothe them and to bring them a sense of calm. And they repeat these baby patterns over and over again through positive and challenging life experiences without learning much and without growing up. So those characteristics are essentially my definition of baby. You find these adult babies everywhere. In fact, that is the default human being. And in some ways, there isn't any blame to be assigned here. So through my 20s, I almost criticized them. Even if I did not do it explicitly, vocally, inside, I would criticize. Much later in life, I realized that actually there is no need to criticize, even internally, because it turns out that some people are just wired to be like this, meaning without a significant intervention, without a significant life setback, without significant mentorship, at the right time from the right person, this is their destiny. When I say right person, I mean that 1 in 500 person, 1 in 1,000 person, which could be a mentor, which could be a friend, which could be a parent, which could be a therapist. But the point here is that it is a rare person who can help this person at the right time to switch from the default baby state to being a well-formed adult. Not everybody is lucky enough to have somebody in their life like that. So there will be a highly skilled therapist who can help bring about this transformation. But again, even with that high skill, there's other factors, openness, significant life setback, etc. There is no reason to necessarily blame them or make fun of them or criticize them. Just as there is no reason to feel proud if you were built with the DNA of being a well-formed adult, which is something I experienced in my 20s and early 30s, like, oh, I'm so proud that I have this growth mindset. I can rise above all this and blah, blah, all sorts of nonsense in my head. There's no reason to be proud whatsoever. Pride only gets in the way of clear thinking. Now, once you understand this well-formed adult and baby idea, it can be very helpful, right? Especially as you discard judgment, discard superiority, and just objectively hold this idea of baby and well-formed adult. The vocabulary actually got, interestingly enough, from Gibson Biddle, who was at Netflix at the time I met him. And I was actually looking to work on his team. Long story short, that's when I heard this term where Gib told me, we only hire well-formed adults at Netflix. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. What does well-formed adults mean? I did see it through the interview process. I'm talking 2009, 2010, before the massive Netflix surge in their reach and in their valuation and all of that. As I talked to the folks, I was like, yeah, these people, they are well-formed adults. They are mature. Now, they did skew perhaps a little older than Google at the time, which is where I was. Google had a lot of well-formed adults as well, but Google also had many babies. So I could see that contrast very clearly. The issue with babies in the work context, it's a lot like what happens if you get 3 babies together in a room. Those of you who are parents will have experienced this. You get 3 babies together in a room and say you have 6 grown-ups. What happens in that scenario? In an all-encompassing way, there is a lot of drama. I'm talking literal babies and literal adults, right? Now, think about this. What happens if you have 3 babies and 10 adults? It's actually the same. The adults are preoccupied with the babies, and not necessarily just for their safety, but just because the babies are doing baby things. And as adults, we feel it's our duty to help the babies. And somehow their babiness makes us feel proud of our independence and our adultness. And that's a more subtle feeling that most people don't recognize, but it's true. So that is what happens in the corporate context as well. On a team, if you have 3, metaphorical babies, even with 6 metaphorical well-formed adults, there's just going to be a lot of drama. A lot of unnecessary drama. Now imagine you have 2 teams which have babies, and now the babies are fighting because, oh, he took my cookie, or give me back my toy, you broke my Legos, etc., right? It's just chaos. This is what corporate life is in many places. The reason is the existence of babies at all levels of the corporate hierarchy. You have this metaphorical baby and babies who seek constant attention, who find problems in everything, who cannot resolve conflicts on their own. They need the grown-ups to come in to resolve conflict, and who will find many, many reasons to get upset and cry and get offended, etc. It is important to understand this for a number of practical reasons, because this is not just a theoretical idea. Number one, if you understand this, you now know what teams to avoid or what companies you want to avoid. Number two, if you are a manager or a leader of a team, you now know why you're babysitting. There's literally a term in corporate America, babysitting. I have to babysit this thing, whatever it is. So now you know why you're having to do that. Third, this will help you filter, just like Netflix did, people as you hire them. If you inherit a team, this will help you figure out which people on the team should no longer be on the team. And then there are many practical applications, but the last one is if you understand how to identify babies across your peers, people higher up in the hierarchy, including some executives, you now know at least something more about the situation, which will hopefully be an input for you to be able to better influence them and better persuade them, which is a key job of a leader in any organization. So that's overall why this seemingly simple metaphor, I believe, is very useful.